Outbound lead gen, techniques for proactive wins. Outbound isn't dead, irrelevant outbound is. Outbound lead gen still works, but the market is crowded and buyers are far less patient with generic outreach. Recent research shows 61% of B2B buyers prefer a rep-free buying experience, and 73% actively avoid vendors that feel irrelevant. The takeaway isn't stop outbound, it's raise your standards. At the same time, proactive prospecting is absolutely welcomed when it's credible and specific. Rain Group's research found 82% of buyers will accept meetings with sellers who reach out proactively, as long as the message is relevant and brings value. That's the window modern outbound teams win through: relevance, timing, and proof. In this guide, we're focusing on proactive wins, tighter ICPs, disciplined multi-touch cadences, and multi-channel execution that feels coordinated instead of chaotic. We'll also cover the most common outbound mistakes we see, like blasting giant lists, quitting after a couple touches, and optimizing vanity metrics, and how to fix them without slowing down pipeline. Why proactive outbound matters in a buyer-led journey. Today's buying journey is mostly self-directed, and in many cases, buyers do roughly 80% of their research before they ever want to talk to sales. That reality changes the job of outbound. You're not pushing a product, you're earning attention early with a point of view that helps the buyer make sense of a problem. When we treat outbound like an insight channel, not a pitch channel, replies go up and deals move faster. Inbound and outbound aren't rivals. They do different jobs in the same pipeline. Inbound captures demand that already exists, while outbound creates demand inside accounts that match your ICP but aren't actively shopping yet. That's why many teams see outbound produce larger opportunities. Some benchmark data reports outbound source deals are about 50% larger on average than inbound source deals. If you're running an outbound sales agency motion in-house or partnering with a B2B sales agency, SDR agency, or sales development agency, the goal is the same. Get the right message to the right buying committee before an RFP exists. Proactive outbound is how you show up early, shape the criteria, and avoid competing solely on price at the end of the cycle. Foundation first, ICP clarity and data quality beat clever copy. The fastest way to kill outbound performance is a spray and pray list with one-size-fits-all messaging. It drives low replies, hurts domain reputation, and gets you lumped in with the irrelevant vendors the market is trying to tune out. A modern ICP should go beyond job titles and firmographics to include technographics, problem signals, and triggers like hiring surges, funding, leadership changes, or tech stack shifts. Once the ICP is real, list building becomes a quality exercise, not a volume exercise. Invest in verification and QA so your sequences start from clean inputs, and segment so your messaging can stay specific without turning every email into a research project. Benchmarks suggest SDRs can often manage about 75 to 125 accounts per rep in proactive outbound, but that only holds when your data is accurate and your segmentation is disciplined. Account tiers keep effort proportional. Your Tier A accounts get deeper personalization and multi-threading, while Tier B and Tier C stay scalable with lighter customization. This is also where many teams benefit from list-building services or a cold email agency approach, because clean data and consistent segmentation are the difference between a predictable engine and a monthly scramble. Build a cadence that earns attention and doesn't rely on luck. The biggest execution gap we see is teams treating outbound as one email and a hope. Strong programs standardize follow-up and make it normal to complete a full sequence because most deals don't convert on touch 1 or 2. A practical baseline for many B2B motions is 8 to 12 touches over 17 to 21 days, mixing email, phone, and LinkedIn so each channel reinforces the same narrative. This is also where email-only outbound quietly loses pipeline. When your cadence includes calls and LinkedIn touches, you're not just adding volume, you're adding different contexts where the buyer might be receptive. The key is coordination. The call references the email, the LinkedIn message references the trigger, and every touch advances a clear reason for a short meeting. If you're building this in-house, put it in your sales engagement platform as the default, then manage to completion rate, not just activity counts. And if your team is bandwidth constrained, a cold calling agency or outsourced sales team can run the phone layer while your internal reps focus on discovery and closing. The goal is consistent execution, not heroic one-off effort. Outbound works when every touch earns its place, relevant reason, clear value, and a next step that respects the buyer's time. Personalization that scales, short, specific, and trigger-based. Cold email is still a core outbound lever, but baseline performance is humbling. Average B2B cold email reply rates often sit around 3 to 5%. Top outbound teams push into the 15 to 25% range by tightening the ICP, writing shorter emails, and personalizing the part that matters most, the first line and the why now. If your opener doesn't make the buyer think, "This was meant for me," the rest of the email doesn't get read. Personalization doesn't mean writing a custom essay for every prospect. It means grounding your message in a real trigger and a believable outcome. Replace generic intros with problem and trigger-based hooks, then test 2 to 3 variants across a few hundred prospects so you learn quickly. This is the difference between a cold email agency-style program that improves every week and a random set of templates that never gets better. AI can be a force multiplier here, if you use it with guardrails. Done well, hyper-personalization can lift revenue by 5 to 15% and improve marketing efficiency by 10 to 30%, especially when it pulls in accurate firmographic and public signal context. Where AI gets overhyped is fully automated, zero-review outreach. The fastest way to sound like a bot is to let a bot speak unchecked. Multi-channel execution. Email, phone, and LinkedIn should reinforce each other. If you want proactive wins, build for how buyers actually respond, not how you wish they would. Email is still a preferred outreach channel for about 73% of B2B buyers, and nearly 79% of B2B marketers rank it as their most effective demand gen channel. But preferred doesn't mean email only. It means email should be the backbone, with phone and LinkedIn increasing the odds you reach the right person at the right moment. Phone is your fastest path to truth, especially when you're calling into a tight ICP with a clear trigger. A strong cold calling team doesn't read scripts. They lead with context, earn the next question, and handle objections with calm clarity. Whether you run this via in-house SDRs or cold calling services, including B2B cold calling services, calls should be planned touches inside the cadence, not random bursts when someone has time. LinkedIn outreach services are most effective when they add proof and familiarity, rather than acting as another pitch inbox. Use LinkedIn to validate role and context, connect with a short note, and reinforce the narrative with a relevant resource or observation. When you combine email, phone, and LinkedIn intentionally, studies suggest using 3+ channels can lift conversion by roughly 30% versus single-channel outreach. Fix the mistakes that quietly drain pipeline. Mistake 1 is blasting huge lists with one message and hoping a small percentage sticks. That approach doesn't just underperform, it also increases bounces and complaints, which can damage deliverability for your entire domain. The fix is straightforward. Narrow your ICP, segment by use case or trigger, cap daily volume so you can maintain list health, and make relevance a requirement before anything is sent. Mistake 2 is giving up early and assuming silence equals not interested. In B2B, many conversions require around 8 meaningful touchpoints, so quitting after a couple touches means you're losing deals before you've even shown up consistently. Standardize an 8 to 12 touch cadence, coach reps to follow it without sounding repetitive, and measure performance on completion and outcomes. because incomplete sequences are invisible pipeline leaks. Mistake 3 is tracking vanity metrics instead of revenue metrics. Opens and raw dials can be useful diagnostics, but they're not the business outcome, and they often push teams toward noisy volume. Anchor your outbound dashboard on meetings set, qualified opportunities created, and pipeline per rep, or per 100 target accounts. Then work backward to improve reply rates, connect rates, and show rates by channel and segment. Optimize and scale, testing, tooling, and smart outsourcing. Once the fundamentals are stable, optimization becomes systematic rather than reactive. Run multivariate tests on subject lines, hooks, CTAs, and SYN timing, but only change 1 or 2 variables at a time so you can trust the result. Keep your testing scoped by ICP tier, because a message that works for a 200 to 500 employee SaaS company may fail completely in manufacturing or IT services. For teams that want scale without sacrificing relevance, the most practical approach is a human-led, AI-assisted workflow. AI can draft openers, summarize triggers, and suggest angles, while reps apply judgment and tighten the wording so it stays natural. At SalesHive, we've built our platform to support that blend, including AI-powered personalization workflows, but the principle applies no matter what tools you use. Strategy first, automation second. If you don't have internal capacity to hire SDRs fast enough, sales outsourcing can be a legitimate accelerator, especially when you need list building, cold email execution, and B2B cold calling in one coordinated motion. As you evaluate cold calling companies, outsourced SDR options, or a pay-per-appointment lead generation model, prioritize transparency on data sources, messaging testing, deliverability practices, and reporting tied to pipeline. If you're considering SalesHive specifically, teams often review SalesHive.com, SalesHive reviews, and SalesHive pricing to validate fit, and some also look at SalesHive careers to understand the talent bench behind the work.